This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jaden Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwall podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Yellowwallpod Season Awards. I am your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will give out our awards for the season and then pick a glorious winner. And for that we have two categories where we will start with the team awards and then later on the individual awards, which will coincide with me keeping an Excel spreadsheet. So all very exciting, and for all that joins me Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing?
Hello, Stefan. I'm doing well. How are you today?
I am doing very well. It's cloudy in Philadelphia, and after the heat wave, that is very nice. So I'm keeping a cool head, hopefully, today. Also here, Lars Pollmann. Hello, Lars. How are you in Bonn?
Hi, Stefan. I'm reasonably fine.
And Konstantin Eckner. Hello, Konstantin. How are you?
Thanks, sir.
All right. All right. As always, we didn't make our own categories because we are lazy, so we asked our listeners to do that. And as I said, we will start with the team awards, and the first category is Choreo of the Season. Lars, since you already volunteered in the pre-pod, what's your favorite choreo of the season?
I'm scratching the last three words and I'm saying my favorite choreo is the next one.
All right, Matthias?
Well, I mean, I think the most obvious one would be the Dortmund Stadt choreography against Eintracht Frankfurt. For an honorable mention, I will put in the very first of the season, which was honoring the passing of Manny Burgsmüller.
Yeah, that was a very nice choreo too. Konstantin, do you have anything to add, or shall we move on?
Moving on.
All right, the next category comes from @Tragedia1917, and it's the Mentality Award, in parentheses, most lame performance. Matthias, what was, in your view, the most lame performance or the Mentality Award?
You see, to me, when I first read the headline Mentality Award, I'm like, okay, you know, who most consistent had a good mentality over the season, but then the lame performance. I mean, does the first half against Paderborn count?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll go with that one, I guess.
Lars?
I mean, it's hard to look past the final match day of the season because that was all about mentality, seeing as they had nothing to play for other than, you know, pride and a lot of young players getting a chance, not really taking a hold of it. But I think this is kind of a legacy award, and I'll go with the away performance at Bayern because those are always shit.
Yeah, very good shout. Konstantin?
Every performance by Nico Schulz this season. Thank you very much.
It's a team award, though, so you need to pick something else.
Still.
All right,
but
fine.
All right, I go with, I agree with Lars. Every performance against Bayern Munich in almost in the history of mankind.
Well, at least Bayern away in recent years, but I also would pick the Hoffenheim one. That's pretty atrocious, but yeah, I think the Bayern one comes pretty close, and that first half in Paderborn also not covered in glory at all. And the next category comes from @BVB Indie, and he wants us to name our moment of the year in parentheses to show Sportbild how it's done. Konstantin, what's your moment of the year?
Revier Derby in May, because of the result plus the kind of fucked upness of the entire thing. That's my moment of the year.
Matthias?
Well, it's all to do with the Paderborn match. I think one is Ja Schmelle. That's hard to get over that. And I believe, was it also the Exactly. And wasn't it also the Paderborn match where Jadon Sancho did the George Floyd t-shirt, or was that against Schalke?
Yeah.
Yes, it was against Paderborn. Okay. So that whole match, I think there were a few moments of the season there.
Lars?
Yeah, I'm going to second Matthias' second thought of the Black Lives Matter protest by not only Sancho, but also Hakimi and Akanji.
Yeah, that was also my pick. I think it was a very nice gesture indeed, and kind of nice for people to speak out, and especially since the players did it on their own. So yeah, I think I don't have much more to add there, so we can move on to the next category, which is posted by Steve Berkowitz and is the best team performance. And I'm very curious which performances you picked, because I thought there were a couple really good ones to choose from. Lars, you can go first on this one.
I think I'm going to go with the 5-0 in the Black Beauty jerseys against Düsseldorf in early December, even though I missed the game live. That was just, I think, one of the most commanding performances, obviously against a team that would be relegated at the end of the season. So you could argue the lack of actual opposition on the pitch, but I think that was perhaps the most thorough beatdown Dortmund have dished out over the last 12 months, so I'm going to go with that one.
Do you think your view is a little bit jaded because of the kit?
Might be. Might also be jaded because that was arguably the best performance by Julian Brandt, who's not only on my kit, but also my probably favorite player on the team, even though I'm not
hangs
going
above
to...
his bed.
No, there's only a mirror. No,
Yikes.
I mean, I'm not going to give Brandt the honor of being my signing of the season, which we're talking about later, or player of the season indeed. So maybe this is kind of a way to give him a little shout out.
Konstantin, since you interrupted, what's your best performance of the season?
Didn't interrupt him. I just complimented his comment.
By interrupting.
Second half.
Second half?
Second half against Internazionale.
The comeback from 2-0 down.
The comeback from a 2-0 to 3-2. Not getting the best result out of it because of the away goal rule, but still.
I don't know if I would count single halves, because then my pick would have been probably a bit different than it was in the end, because I tried to pick the full.
Fortunately, I make the rules, not you. So
nobody makes the rules, which is the fun of this. Matthias, what's your rule and your best performance?
I have no rules, Stefan. No, best performance. I was really impressed. Thinking about matches that stuck in my head, the result wasn't great, but the performance was great. That was the 0-0 against Barcelona. I thought that was a very, very good performance.
Yeah, I would agree. I picked the 2-0 win over Leipzig in the penultimate match day. I thought that was a very comprehensive win when a lot was still on the line for Dortmund, sort of, and I thought from start to finish that was probably one of the or the best performances this season. But the one against Barcelona I think comes very close, and I think that the best half was the other game, the first half against Leipzig in the home match. I thought that was just a very tremendous half, but then Dortmund managed to throw that game away, sadly. So that wouldn't count as my full performance. But either way, I think all very good picks. And the next category, also from Steve Berkowitz, it's biggest missed opportunity. And I think that's a very broad question and has very different answers. Konstantin, in your view, what's the biggest missed opportunity?
Pushing Bagliari.
Matthias?
Well, I was actually going to say the 0-0 against Barcelona, but I would say the loss. Yeah, the loss against PSG in the Champions League, that was, I think, a missed opportunity. We understand it was like the first match without fans. It was really weird atmosphere at a really weird time, so I guess there are extenuating circumstances, but I feel like that was an opportunity for Dortmund to get past an opponent that I think is a little overrated to a degree. So that's my missed opportunity.
Man, that's also mine, but I have an alternative jotted down, so I'm going to go with that, which is the German Cup. I think at least you can make it past Werder Bremen in this competition. And I thought Dortmund really should have had a better run in the Champions League. I think they could have easily, well, not easily, but they could have made it past PSG. So it's a bit of a shame that in the second leg they hardly had a scoring opportunity. And given how well they performed in the first leg, I thought that was disappointing. So but not really having a deep run in the German Cup with this team is equally disappointing, I guess. And you obviously want to reach the finals. So with all the ambition that Dortmund have, I think they need to do better in that competition. But I'm very curious what your answer is, Lars.
I also have two. I would say for one, that kind of the entire Bundesliga and maybe we can throw in the cup as well was a missed opportunity, because once again, Bayern had a slow start with pretty much a bad coach in Niko Kovac, at least for that team. And Dortmund, not even as they did last year, had an advantage going into the winter. I mean, obviously, the way Bayern have gone under Hansi Flick probably wouldn't have mattered. But, in that situation, Dortmund should have been at the top of the table instead of Leipzig and Gladbach. Let's remember that Dortmund were level on points with Schalke at the halfway point of the season. So that's, I think, just generally a bit of a missed opportunity in maybe both of the last 2 years not to have come away with the championship. But also, you always have to remember how good Bayern are. So my actual answer is redshirting Matteo Murray, because that was kind of unnecessary. I think they kind of knew at least once COVID hit that they weren't going to be able to pay for Hakimi, for the transfer of Hakimi, or keeping him indeed for one more season. So they knew, for the last 8 or 9 matches that they were going to have the opportunity to give More kind of a showcase or a first glimpse of Bundesliga football. And that really only happened in the last few games. So a missed opportunity to give a talented player a bit more of a run in, championship circumstances, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess moving on to categories left in the team awards, and I'll go ahead with this one. Most painful set piece of the season, a question by @Stefan1701A. And my answer for that would be the Marius Bülter one by Union Berlin that was on match day 2, and the first set piece, as far as I remember, or was it match day 3? It was match day 3, right? Yeah. I don't know if it was the first one. I think they also conceded one against Cologne, but that was obviously one that sort of introduced a loss for Dortmund. And against Cologne, you could have said, oh well, maybe that set piece that Dortmund conceded there was maybe a bit of a fluke or whatever. But I think after that goal that Dortmund conceded against Union Berlin, you were really feeling that, oh, this is going to be a struggle that continues and carries over from last season now. The good news for Dortmund really is that they managed to fix that problem over the first half of the season, but nevertheless, there were a couple painful ones that Dortmund had to eat, and that would be my pick. I'll just throw it out there. Anyone else has one to name, or shall we just move on?
I don't have one, but looking at the lineup against Union, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, that Julian Weigl and Alcázar played in the starting 11, then Larsen came in at the end. How times change.
Yeah. It was also the good old Delaney-Witzel double pivot that started.
Yes, it was Delaney-Weigl double pivot. Weigl played.
Oh, really?
Not Witzel. Oh.
Oh.
Yes.
My bad.
Witzel was probably injured or something. So no, it was Weigl and Delaney double pivot, and then Dahoud came in for Delaney halfway through the match. Yes.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second, and we can move on, of course.
Obviously, we will do that now. And that category comes from Steve Berkowitz. And I don't know if that's really an award. I called it the Hope Award, maybe. Best reason to be hopeful for next season, Matthias.
Well, I think the biggest reason to be hopeful is the fact that the majority of the squad is going to stay intact. There aren't huge losses. I mean, yes, Sancho could go, but I still find that a little bit unrealistic at this point. And, with someone like Meunier coming in who will at least defensively solidify, because Hakimi defensively was always a risk in my opinion. I think that's the biggest hope. It's the core of the team will stick together and they continue to mature together, because we can't forget there are still a lot of young players. So for me, that's, the lack of upheaval compared to some seasons in the past. That's probably the biggest hope.
Fair enough. Konstantin?
Haaland just turned 20. Isn't that the biggest hope for anything?
I guess so. Lars?
Yeah.
Yeah, a full season of Haaland potentially being served by Sancho. Maybe Reina makes a step forward, or he definitely will make a step forward. Maybe Marco Reus is not injured all the time next season, even though that looks doubtful because he's probably going to miss the first day of, let's say, training camp next week. So I don't know if I'm not known to be the huge optimist on this show, so maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask for this award, but I don't really see many reasons actually to be overly optimistic about next season.
Yeah, we sadly don't have a despair award, otherwise you would have been the first guy to ask. No, but I think the second half of the season more or less is a cause for hope. I thought Dortmund gained some stability, even though at the very end they faltered here and there, but overall I still think with the addition of Emre Can as well, Dortmund gained balance, had some solidity, and obviously the tactical switch by Lucien Favre throughout the season also helped a little bit here and there. So overall I thought Dortmund played a very decent second half of the season, and if they can keep that up, which I will presume, obviously you can't 100% predict it, but I think they will be in a good setting, and I also hope that the setbacks in the Champions League, in the German Cup, lends the team some extra motivation, because obviously we don't just want them to have a good run in the Bundesliga, but in the cup competitions as well. So that second half of the season overall, to me, would be the answer. And with that, I think it's time to move on to the individual awards, which means I have to open my spreadsheet here in my browser tab. And the first award is Best Transfer and has been handed in by @Kutzi17. And I will start with you, Lars.
Mats Hummels. Not more to say.
Ooh, controversy here.
All right, Konstantin.
Haaland.
Matthias.
I'm gonna go with Haaland as well.
Ooh, so 2 Hummels, 2 Haaland, because I'm also going with Hummels. I don't know. Do I have to explain it, or should we just let the awards speak for themselves?
You should always explain yourself, Stefan.
All right. I think that Mats Hummels brought a bit of character, stability, and world class to this team. And over the course of the season, he was one of the most important players. And so I think even with the Haaland goals for the structure of the team, he's a little bit more important in my book. And yeah.
Also, he played a full season. Maybe that makes a bit of a difference. I mean, if I may explain my choice, obviously Haaland was a great transfer, but if we're talking about last season, he only was available for less than 50% of it. So maybe if we were looking at this down the road, who will prove to be the better signing, obviously that's probably going to be one of the best young strikers in the world. But just looking at last season, I don't know how it's not Mats Hummels.
Well, I go with Haaland because he's the guy with the most upside and the smartest business move. I mean, Hummels is getting old and you don't have any value there moving forward, while Haaland, you can turn him into a lot of money. That's why when you talk about transfers.
Yeah, but there's a buyout clause, so it's not going to be that much money. Anywho.
I don't believe it.
Moving on. Worst transfer, Matthias.
Well, it's kind of hard to not say Nico Schulz, which it's kind of a bummer because I think he was also hurt by the fact that for a big chunk in the beginning, he was playing not in that back three where he's in a wing back where he's more comfortable, because when he did play in the wing back role, he played significantly better than in a flat back four. But yeah, it's kind of got to be Nico Schulz.
Konstantin?
Yes, that's the funny thing, because the other transfers were all kind of good or great. In Hummels, Brandt, Holland,
Hazard.
Yeah, Hazard. I mean, even Hazard was probably not the most convincing player at times, but still a valuable player. And then you have these four, and you turn around and look at Nico Schulz. Sorry about it, but yeah, kind of falls off a cliff there.
Lars, do you have a different pick?
Yeah, Chico Nulz is my pick.
Okay. So yeah, my
Korean left back.
Mine is obviously Nico Schulz as well, which means right now after two categories, Nico Schulz is leading with 4 points. So as long-time listeners know, also negative awards count as positives basically. So it sort of depends on how the categories are framed who wins. Anywho, next category. By @hunt _1909, and he asked for the most improved player, and I'll go first on this one, and I'm picking Dan-Axel Zagadou because he really struggled a little bit in the previous seasons. He had a couple of good games, but I think especially in the second half of the season, but also toward the end of the first half of the season when he was plugged into the left slot. In that back three, I thought he was very consistent, and all the silly errors that he made quite frequently were sort of gone, and he was dominating a lot of games with his physical presence, and obviously with his really great technique that he has and anticipation. So If I look back at the last season, Zagadou compared to this season, Zagadou was kind of ashamed that he picked up an injury in the end. To me, that's the most improved player. Konstantin, do you have a different answer?
Yes, Rafa Guerrero.
Also very good.
I mean, I don't know if he's the most improved player, but he's the player that has shown his true potential for once compared to the previous seasons.
Oh, was also on my list as potential picks.
If that's the case, then I mean, of course I'm right.
Matthias.
I was actually Guerrero comes in second in mine, and I'm gonna go with something that's probably gonna shock some people. I'm gonna say Mahmoud Dahoud. I feel like the last performances he had, he actually wasn't shit, like he was pretty much all the time before. And so I'm going to go with, when the bar set's so low and you actually perform well, that's a pretty good improvement. Of course, then he got injured and that was the end of that. So, we'll see. But I'm going with Mo Dahoud.
Yeah, but I mean,
he was not shit.
Yeah, but we all know
shit happens.
So, anyway, Lars, who do you grade highest on a curve?
Well, if this was only like for the last few weeks, I think you could make the point not only with Dahoud, but also Delaney before he got injured, and even Lukasz Piszczek, who I think turned out to be quite a good right-sided center back in the back three, which obviously we kind of knew because he played it a few times, but not on that regular a basis. But I'm also going to go with Guerrero, even though I will say before you guys talked about him, my memory was kind of hazy how he performed, let's say, last season or even to start this season, but then kind of came back to me that there were all these rumors about him leaving. His contract extension wasn't necessarily celebrated like the best thing ever. I mean, obviously, most people were quite happy with him because of his potential, but I think he really turned out to be one of the I'm going to go high 3 or 4 or 5 best players on this team. So that's certainly, especially on a curve, as you said, Stefan, I think he merits this award.
Yeah, I would almost agree. Other than that, I picked Zagadou, but I think it's a very excellent choice as well, and it's good to know that there are several candidates, which means there is some development here and there. So with that, we go to the next award, which is the surprise of the season. Konstantin?
Yes, I have Dahoud being half decent.
So full award or half award?
Already explained by Matthias.
Okay. All right, Dahoud.
Half decent, aka not shit.
Matthias?
I would have to go with Guerrero. For a few reasons that were just explained. I mean, contract situation was a little bit up in the air. You didn't know how into it he was to continue playing for Dortmund. And then he didn't just extend his contract and continue playing, but he actually became one of the best players, maybe even the best, Dortmund player or most important, I don't know, this season. So I'm going to definitely go. Guerrero surprised me.
Lars?
Maybe a bit of a curveball, but I'll say the proficiency in front of goal of one Jadon Sancho, because he never seemed to me like the kind of player that would score, I think, 17 Bundesliga goals. Obviously, he's so young that, we never saw everything he has to offer, but I didn't really peg him as a player that would come close to these numbers. So I'm going to say Jadon Sancho in that specific aspect.
Yeah, I like it. We all have 4 different picks, because my surprise of the season is Lukas Piszczek, because I did not see such a consistent and very strong season coming after he looked pretty old at some points the last season. So, that he is even adding another year to his Dortmund career now has taken me by surprise. I'll be honest. So I'm very glad for him to come back to old, vintage performances here and there. So I think overall he had a very solid season, and with that, I'm actually surprised, because I didn't necessarily see this one coming. Anywho, moving on, next category, and that's again by @Kutzi17, and he wants us to award the most underrated player. Lars, you may go first.
You always make me go first when I'm not sure about my answer and want to listen to the others.
It's a conspiracy, Lars.
Yeah,
conspiracy.
obviously.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who to pick either. I mean, I have a pick, but I'm not entirely sure on it either. So
most underrated. I mean, going by what people were saying when he was signed, maybe Emre Can, because not a lot of people were too excited when he signed for Dortmund in the winter, and he definitely made an instant impact in terms of, as you said, Stefan, stability, and also I think he's adding a lot of personality to the dressing room, which, given how a lot of these guys are pretty young, is definitely helping. So I'm going to, once again, perhaps a bit of a curveball, but Emre Can, the most underrated Dortmund player of last season anyway.
Matthias?
I'm going to go with Lukas Piszczek. He continues to surprise. He extends his contract and continues to perform at a pretty high level, despite being despite being, supposedly 5,000 years old. Even though he's not actually old, but anyway, compared to me, so I'm gonna go with Lukas Piszczek.
Konstantin?
Matteo Morey, underrated by his own coach.
Yeah, that's a fair one. I've a pick which probably no one will agree with, but I guess that's just my own perspective. But I'm picking Thomas Delaney. Because I think, especially in a couple of games in the later stages of the season when he returned from injury, he really had a couple of decent performances, and he hardly ever gets credit when he does well. So, is he the best player of Dortmund? No, but I still think he is better than some people make him out to be. So since you sort of have to glean this category from what you experience of other people giving their takes and opinions, Thomas Delaney is my pick in this category, but again, all very subjective. So moving on, and that is most frustrating player of the season, and that's been handed in by @rguy12, and my most frustrating player of the season is Marco Reus. First of all, he didn't have his best season when he was fit, and then obviously he was injured. So if you look at the bigger Marco Reus picture, it was really not a good season by him, and to me that's very frustrating, knowing what potential Marco Reus has and how awesome he can be. So it's not really that I got very upset with him, but there were a couple of moments where I think it was frustrating. Also, his outbursts talking about the good old Mentalitätsscheiße and whatnot. I don't know. There were a couple of Royce moments that were a bit frustrating in my perspective. So he gets that award. Maybe a bit of an underperformance, but I also do hope that he bounces back next season when and if he eventually gets fit again. So obviously I don't want to hold his injury against him, but if you put it all together, it's annoying. So with that being said, I'll hand it over to you, Matthias.
So for me, it's got to be Jadon Sancho, just because yes, he's absolutely brilliant when he decides to be brilliant. But there are just too many matches and too many moments, even within matches, where, he gets an assist and a goal, and it's amazing and it's important for the team. But where he just seems to just not give a crap, or, he's like, whatever. He doesn't work back defensively in those moments, or he gets too playful with the ball, slows down a counterattack at times to just make one more cut and try to dribble out one more player instead of playing something maybe a little bit simpler. So even though I love the guy, I think he's great, but it would have to be Jadon Sancho also for some of the stuff off the pitch that just were in poor taste. Thinking of like the hairdresser thing or whatever. But he's probably the most frustrating player for me at times.
All right. Lars?
I literally love him, but Julian Brandt to me is kind of the epitome of a frustrating player, because his highs are so high, but then he has these moments in games, or even entire performances where you're just wondering what's going on in that puffed cheek-headed guy, because sometimes he truly on his day he might be the best player on this team, but when he's not on his day, he's being carried by teammates and making mistakes. So obviously the better days with Brandt are more frequent than the bad days, but he has too many bad days to not be frustrating, if that makes sense.
It does. Konstantin?
Hakimi. Because he can be also brilliant offensively, but defensively he kind of sucks most of the time. So he could be a world-class fullback, wingback, but I don't know if he ever will be one, because there's more to being a wingback than just being fast and kind of smart moving forward. Just when you look at the most proficient fullbacks and wingbacks, then they are mostly sound defensively, at least, and I don't see that with Hakimi. He has to mature a lot, and especially last season, like there were some matches where he just straight out sucked in defense. So
All right, award number 7, save of the season. Matthias, you may go first on this one.
I would go with Slavia Prague. Shot coming in, deflected, looping over Bürki, who was already going down to save the original shot, then redirected his body to tip the ball over the goal while he was still falling. That, to me, was probably his best save of the season.
Konstantin, do you have an answer?
it's some time in the Slavia match.
Okay, so Bürki again. Lars, do you have a different answer?
I mean, can it be anyone else but Bürki? I mean, obviously
maybe?
Marvin Hitz played a couple of games early in the season, but I mean, this is probably going to go to Roman Bürki, I venture to guess. Something in Slavio. I think in one of the first half of the season games against Gladbach, because obviously there were 2 with the cup. I think he had a good game in one of these, but honestly, this was not the kind of season where Roman Bürki made too many saves that imprinted themselves deeply into my brain.
Yeah, that's the same problem that I had, that when I closed my eyes and tried to picture Roman Bürki save this season, I just couldn't come up with one, so I went down another road, and my save of the season is Lucien Favre, saving himself basically in that Hertha game with that switch to the back 3 and the 3-4-2-1 system, or however you want to call it, or 3-4-3 system, and turning things around for him, because he was pretty much on a hot seat. And after that loss in Barcelona, I think it really came down to the result against Hertha Berlin. I wasn't entirely sure if it really was as hot as it was made out to be, but certainly the ice got a little thin for Mr. Favre there, or Monsieur Favre there. So for me, that's the save of the season, since I'm not actually going to go with a goal save. But I think with no certain rules in this award show, I think this one should be allowed. So Lulu gets my pick. And with that, to the next award, which is Key Player of the Season, a player who helped the team from falling apart the most and whose absence was the most noticeable, was handed in by Ed Borscht for Lunch. I'm really interested who you're gonna pick, so I'm gonna go with you, Konstantin, so I can maybe still dwell on my answer.
Sure, Lukas Piszczek.
It's a
key player.
Very good choice.
Who held the team from falling apart the most. When I read that, I thought like, yes, of course, Piszczek. Keeping the team together with good old Clue.
Matthias?
So I feel like it's a 2-part answer. It's hard to not think of Mats. Yeah, it's hard to not think of Mats Hummels. But he didn't really miss many matches. For me, one of the most noticeable when he wasn't in the game was probably Rafael Guerreiro. So I will give a 0.5 point to Mats Hummels and a 0.5 point to Guerreiro.
Lars?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really see anyone who truly fits the criteria that were put upon us. I mean, Hummels didn't miss a lot of games, but also when he missed them, you mentioned the Hertha game, Hummels was sent off in the first half and they still won and kept Favre in his job. I don't really remember Piszczek missing too much time. Witzel was replaced decently enough when they didn't have Alcázar in the first half of the season or Haaland in the second half. I mean, they still scored goals at a record amount, so no one really comes to mind, in my opinion, to fit the criteria on the whole. But, I mean, in theory, I would probably say Guerreiro just because he's probably the most singular talent they have at a certain position. Because everyone else they could kind of replace here and there, but, I mean, it's Nico Schulz playing in Guerreiro's spot, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lars, there. So I'm also going to go with Guerreiro. So in this category, I guess he has then 2.5 points, which is still fairly decent. And we can move on to the next category, which is Assists of the Season. And that is obviously very exciting. I'm a bit disappointed, though, that our listeners did not add pre-assist of the season, because there are also plenty of nice to choose from. But Matthias, you may go first.
Well, actually, I had originally had a pre-assist written down, and that was Brandt against Schalke.
Yeah.
Which was just brilliant.
Was it the back heel?
But if we're going by... Yes. I think it was the first goal in the second match against Schalke. But if we're going on pure assist, it's Hummels to Sancho against Augsburg for the 3-3, for the equalizer. That was like vintage Hummels from deep. Yeah, it's like, oh, it's a long ball over the top, but that's not Hummels. It's not just a lumped ball. It's actually a placed, precise defense splitting pass from a deep position. So for me, it's Hummels to Sancho.
Fair enough. Konstantin.
I got Zagadou against Mainz. I think it was the 2-0, his assist to Sancho when he made his 60 yards run.
Yeah, there was also the first assist I had written down, but if you pick this one, since there's so many to choose from, I'm just gonna go with a different one. And that's going to be Jadon Sancho in the Super Cup. I think that was the very first goal that Dortmund scored of the season, if you want to count this game, where he, I think, weaved past 3 Bayern defenders and then nutmegged the last one with an assist to Alcázar. That was very nice. But honorable mention also to Gio Reyna in that Leipzig game to set up Erling Haaland. That was also a very sweet touch. But to me, Jadon Sancho takes the cake then if the Zagadou assist is already taken. Lars?
So I don't really remember assists too well, which is something I always only remember when we do the award show, because I'm always looking at the list and thinking, I don't remember shit. I mean, so... One I do remember, and it wasn't necessarily a great assist, I think, but, the circumstances were quite cool, is Paco Alcázar for the 2-2 draw scored by Julian Brandt in the 3-2 win over Inter Milan, as we referenced a bit earlier as one of the high points of the season. Mostly because Alcázar was on the pitch for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Like the camera didn't even really notice it. And yeah, that was that's funny, because if you said I couldn't think of anything, that would exactly been the moment I would have suggested to you to pick. So very nice. And with that, we can move on to the next category, which is goal of the season. Oh, geez, a lot to pick from. I'm having still trouble to decide, so I'm gonna hand it off to you, Matthias.
I'm going to have to go to one of my countrymen, Gio Reyna, against Werder Bremen in the DFB Pokal. Quick feet to get around a few players, to get himself a little bit of a window to shoot, and then such an extreme bending shot into the top corner. When I went through the compilation of goals of the season and that one popped up again, I went, oh yeah, that's gotta be it.
Lars?
Julian Brandt against Leipzig in the first matchup of the season, obviously. He scored, I think, the second goal after Julian Weigl scored the opener, which in itself is kind of interesting. And obviously it was the quintessential Brandt performance in that he also gave away a goal very cheaply. But I mean, that the silky smooth footwork of my favorite player, I can only say it again. I mean, I couldn't pick anything else.
Yeah, that was one of the best goals, definitely. To me, it's a bit of a tie, but this one is up there, and just because of the technique, it's such a pretty and beautiful goal. It's a bit like a poem, this goal itself. So yeah, I can completely understand that pick. Konstantin, what's yours?
Obviously Kimmich. Sorry. Although Kimmich's goal, kind of decent. But I would take Sancho against Barcelona in the second.
Yeah, assisted by Julian Brandt, and then he had to sort of reposition himself.
And then just go for it from outside the box. I think something like 20 yards or so.
Yeah, it was definitely a good goal. So since you have picked the goals you've picked, I'm gonna go with the Erling Haaland goal against PSG, the 2-1, because it was just an absolute rocket, an absolute missile. It was, I think, a bit crucial for Dortmund to get this goal, not only because it's the Champions League and you want to advance, but also just for the overall feeling in the club. And that was just a superb Champions League night, and I remember it very fondly. I mean, he already had the meditation goal celebration with his first one, so I can't count this necessarily, but still, the way he lashed that one, That was, to me, an amazing goal. And with that, we come to my next and favorite category, and also suggested by @Stefan1701A. And I promise it's not my burner count. And the next category is Best Marcel Schmelzer goal of the season. Lars, which could that one be?
Well, first of all, I would say that's exactly what someone would say, whose burner account this is, Stefan. So I think we're still on to you. Yeah, when Schmelzer absolutely took the mickey out of the entire defense of Paderborn. I mean, that was such a golazo. I mean, it's Schmelzer's world and we live in it. And obviously you will once again have to play the Ja Schmelle soundbite.
Most definitely. Matthias, what's your Marcel Schmelzer goal of the season?
Yeah, I would have to, of all of them, I mean, it took me a while to really think of them all. I would have to, I was close, but I'd have to go with that one.
Konstantin, also to you, what's the best Marcel Schmelzer goal of the season?
I don't know if I have to agree with you guys. I mean, there are a couple of good ones, outside the box and back heels all over the place. Somewhere like Zlatan S or so. But I also think like against Paderborn, that was probably the best one. But it was a close one. But I also have rumor says that usually Lionel Messi watches all the thousands of Schmelzer goals at night. When he's just sad that Barcelona sucks these days.
Because it's so nice, I'm also going to say the one against Paderborn, and we will hear it again. All right, moving on, last category, and that's the player of the season. And I don't know who added this one, but this one probably would have been in there one way or another. Lars, you may go first.
Mats Hummels. I think on the balance of the entire year, I think he had a ridiculously good start to the season, then kind of a bit of a down phase towards the end of the Hinrunde, but once again turned it up in the second half of the season. I think he's definitely the leader on the pitch, which was especially evident in the ghost game phase of the season. The last 9 games, I think while he didn't bring a title to Dortmund, which was what I said before the season was kind of the only thing that would merit getting him back in the first place, because we knew they were capable of second without Hummels. But yeah, still, I think on the balance of the entire season, his performances, his personality, I think Mats Hummels was the player of the season.
It's a very strong shout, Konstantin.
Yeah, I will go for the very famous player, no one. Because I don't think any player deserves this, illustrious award. Because I can think of anyone who was consistent enough and performed at a level that would make it feasible to give them the season award. Or a player of the season award. I don't know. I mean, there like Sancho, for instance, had a couple of outstanding performances, but also sucked at times or was just frustrating. I think Mats Hummels, good and bad, often good, but not always. Piszczek, yes, he kept the team together, but of course he's not like the most. Today he's not like that kind of player. And Holland was only there for 6 months, so it's hard, but there's not one, and I think that speaks for itself.
All right, so Matthias, do you have one?
I do, and I'm going to go with Rafael Guerreiro, simply because he was surprise, highly improved, and when he wasn't in the side just didn't play the same. With him in it, they were significantly better. And that, for me, kind of is if we look at most valuable player type category, that's what makes the big difference.
Yeah, I think that's a very good shout. Rafael Guerreiro really had a quite outstanding season, but my player of the season is Jadon Sancho, and I completely understand the reasoning that he had frustrating performances. But, if you contribute 17 goals and 16 assists in one season, and, I think internationally he also had 2 goals and 2 assists. Overall, I think there was just outstanding numbers, and I don't have the amount of pre-assists in front of me, but his involvement in Dortmund goals was almost always a given, and even when he had a terrible game and a terrible performance, there was still this one magic moment of Jadon Sancho where he, I guess, redeemed himself for it. There's obviously still a lot of room for improvement, and in many ways, I understand the argument for Hummels, I understand the argument for Guerrero, and I understand the argument for no one at all. But I also want to appreciate just how outrageous it is to have these numbers. And so my pick is Jadon Sancho, but I have now done the math and tallied everything up, and we do have a winner. All right, that didn't work. But we have a winner. It's Rafael Guerrero, who is winning it with 6.5 ahead of Jadon Sancho, who has 5 awards, and Mats Hummels has 4.5. Happy with it?
And Nico Schulz has 4. Yeah. Don't forget it. Was close one.
Are you guys happy with that?
Yeah, I can accept that.
It was your best of the season pick anyway.
It's always nice when, the ultimate award winner doesn't have any negative awards to his name, which I think might be a first, but I don't really remember. But given what we said, especially over the last, let's say, 25 minutes or so about Guerrero, I think he's certainly a deserved winner of this most prestigious of all football awards now that the Ballon d'Or has been cancelled.
I thought it was that even before the Ballon d'Or, but okay, I'll take it. I think that was a very brief season award show. We are not yet past the hour mark, which is also kind of nice. And with that, I will thank everyone out there for contributing the categories and obviously listening. And I want to thank you guys for coming on and have a little conclusion of the season. I think we shall be back next week or so, because there are a couple of transfers, obviously, that we have to discuss briefly. So, and just to have another show. So we shall be back soon. And in the meantime, Konstantin, please tell our listeners where to find you on the internet.
They can find me on Twitter, cc_ECKNER. And you can also find me on YouTube if they are German speakers. Just type in my name, Konstantin, and you will find my channel there. That's all. Thank you very much for that I had the opportunity to take part in this, very prestigious award show.
You are very welcome. Also, thank you for picking the best player and the award winner, Matthias. A tremendous award picking performance by you. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I just got a text from Rafael Guerrero who said the check's in the mail. So I don't really know what that means. But now that we've eclipsed the Oscars when it comes to prestige for awards, which isn't saying much because who watches the Oscars? But you can find me on Twitter if I'm ever back on that toxic cesspool of a platform at Matthias.
Lars, also an illustrious performance by you, as always. How to get in touch with you?
Yeah, 2 things first. First of all, I would like to, since Rafael Guerrero is obviously listening to this show because he's basically getting the Nobel Prize of Football Awards, I would like for him to unblock me on Twitter, please. And also, since nobody this year brought up the category of best hair, my award goes to Moda Hood for his buzz cut late in the season. That looked dope. My Twitter handle is @LarsPollmann.
Yeah, my Twitter handle is @SchefferWoodsgo, where also Rafael Guerrero could unblock me. It's kind of weird that half of the podcast is blocked by Rafael Guerrero. I don't know what we did. Well, actually, I do know what I did. Now that we're talking,
You insulted him, right?
No. I criticized him. I think I posted a GIF of a header where he should have gone into a tackle against Mainz, and I didn't.
And you name tagged him or
I
something?
actually did not, but I think he still saw it in some way or form.
Vanity searching.
But maybe I did name tag him. I don't know. People can look it up. But yeah, that was probably me just being frustrated and just highlighting how Dortmund players could be a bit more feisty or whatever. Anyway, Lars, do you know why Rafael Guerrero has blocked you, or just because?
Well, it's never a bad idea to block me on Twitter. It was actually me making fun of his previous, I guess, propensity for coming back from international duty with injuries, because there was a time when he made more appearances per season for Portugal than for Dortmund. And even though I didn't add him, I think I used obviously his name, and he has quite laborious social managers who found it and blocked me like 3 years ago. And I mean, Rafa, I actually love you as a player. Unblock me, please.
All right.
He actually loves him. Just period.
All right. I think that's a very, very good point to end the show. As always, everyone out there, thank you.
I just double checked. I'm not blocked, but he's paying me. So.
All right.
I didn't check, but I'm very certain he hasn't blocked me.
All right. While Matthias Zug will eventually be indicted for bribery and will not be able to appear on the show anytime soon. Thank you, everyone else out there, for listening. And until next week or the week after, good.